We'll go ahead and get started, and maybe we'll get home a little early out of this cold weather. Tonight we're talking about the Sacrament of Matrimony. One of our 7 sacraments. We've covered a few, but haven't covered all of them yet. But tonight is matrimony. Does anybody have any questions about what we've covered in the past, or anything that's been on your mind that you wanted to ask or clarify? A reading from Ruth. You may recognize this. Let me go with you wherever you go, I will go. Wherever you live, I will live. Your people will be my people, and your God will be my God. Wherever you die, I will die, and that is where I will be buried. A commitment, taking that commitment on with each other. Jesus was at Cana, wedding in Cana, Galilee, and he was present at this marriage, and that is where we get our sacramental basis for Christian Catholic marriage. It is a marriage coming together of 2 people, and Jesus was there as a witness. One of the unique things about the sacrament is that this is the only sacrament that the priest does not do. The priest doesn't do the sacrament of matrimony, of marriage. The couple confers the sacrament upon each other. The priest is the witness. When you witness the special grace that is available to husbands and wives, when you've seen 2 people who have made a commitment to each other, it is a commitment that has God at their core, at their focus. You may think it's, I'll pull this out. You may think it's odd a priest is talking about matrimony, but I have dealt with many couples in my years of being a priest, and I have watched good couples come together. And I've had couples come together that maybe shouldn't have been together. Sometimes couples get blinded. I always say they're in love. Well, they're not. They're more in lust than they are in love. Because a marriage covenant, a commitment to each other, is something that takes a lot of work. Takes a lot of work, and it's not something that you can just jump into. It's something the church says that you must spend some time to make sure that this is the one that you want to spend the rest of your life with. This is the one you want to be with for all eternity. That's one of the questions we ask. We ask the couple, the Catholic Church says 6 months. It's kind of a cooling off period, but it's also a time for you to really get prepared for what you're undertaking. Because sometimes you get so caught up in the busyness of what a wedding is that you forget what you're doing, because you're so worried about the details, the dress and the flowers and the cake and the reception and who's coming in, and you forget about the ceremony. You forget about what you're doing, the big commitment you're making. One of the questions we always ask the couple is this the person you want to spend the rest of your life with? And I had one soon-to-be groom. He said, no. I'm not sure that she's the one I want to spend the rest of my life with. And so I kind of looked at her and I said, did you heard it? Yeah, I heard it. I said, you heard him say you may not be the one you want to spend the rest of your life with. Yeah, I heard him. Oh, okay. They didn't get married. They didn't get married. Hopefully, I don't know which one decided to call the marriage off, but when your future partner says, I don't know if this is the one I want to be with, that should throw up a red flag. Today, in today's world, unfortunately, if something doesn't work out, well, we'll just move on. We'll just move on. But we want you to make that full-time commitment. A marriage, I always tell a couple, it's not 50-50. Marriage is not 50-50. Marriage is 100-100. You both have to give everything you can to make the other person happy. A couple's job is to get the other one to heaven. A couple's job is to make sure that my spouse gets to heaven by doing everything I can, that they have a relationship with God, and that they are doing all that they can. If you wake up next to your spouse and your first thought is, what can I do to make them have a good day? Not, what am I going to do today, and I'm going to go do this and do that, but what can I do for my spouse to have the best day possible? If you can do that in a marriage, you're going to have a good marriage. You're going to have a good marriage. You're going to do what needs to be done to make sure. The vows that are repeated, for better, for worse, for richer, for poorer, sickness and in health. A lot of couples, they just kind of, yeah. But if you talk to couples who have been together for a long time, if you talk to couples who have survived 30, 40, 50, 60 years of marriage, they tell you those vows mean more today than they did when we got married. Because we lived richer or poor. We lived sickness. We lived the ups and downs. And we have survived. I have some couples who told me, if we didn't have God, we wouldn't have lasted. I don't speak to him, but we come to church and we sit in the same pew together and we make it through because we share our relationship with Christ. I may not like him at the moment, but I'm going to go to church with him. And those are realistic. That's realistic. Because there's ups and downs and good and bad and ins and outs and everything. So the marriage is the sacrament of the couple. I've done quite a few marriages, as I said, in my career, and it's very nice to see those couples come together and they can have children. The reason for a marriage is procreation, to populate the earth, for a man and woman to come together and to be one, that they're are joined together, and the children that come forth are a symbol of the love that they have for each other. And that love continues to grow, as I said, grow and change and be different. I've had some couples, I'll jump back, about just kind of being infatuated, I'll say, not really knowing what they're doing. I had a cousin, distant cousin, come to me and say, oh, you've got to do our marriage, you've got to do our marriage, you know, we want to get married. I said, okay, well, how long have y'all been dating? 3 weeks. I said, 3 weeks. I said, 6 months. The church says 6 months. Well, we're in love and we're getting married. And so they got married the next week. So they'd known each other for 4 weeks. They went down to the courthouse and got married. 4 months later, he was beating her up. He was abusing her. It's like, I wanted to call her up and say, if you'd have listened to me, you wouldn't be going through this. If you're truly in love, you could have waited 6 months and really got to know each other. But she had to live through that turmoil of an abusive spouse because they were in love after 3 weeks and they just knew that this was the one for them. Years back, it was right out of high school. A lot of people got married right out of high school because that was kind of the thing to do. Now it's college age or late 20s and even early 30s, and you've lived life. You've lived life, and you're not been under mom and dad's rule, and you've got a job, and you've paid bills, and you've got an apartment or a house, and you rent, and you bought your own groceries, and you kind of survived, and so you know what life is about. When they were 17 and 18, didn't really have a clue of what it meant to be on your own and not having mom and dad to take care of you. So nowadays, couples are a little, I think, more educated in the world. They know what life is about before they start this covenant of marriage. Any questions on that? Any questions? Now, the church does not want you to be in an abusive relationship. There are some marriages that just weren't meant to be. And so the church has a process called the annulment process, where it says that these two people who came together were not sacramentally married. And there are many reasons to receive an annulment. One of the big ones is we were immature and we didn't know what marriage was about. We didn't really know what love. We didn't understand that it was going to be a lifelong commitment. Others, liquor, drugs, and they hid it from their former or their future spouse. It's happened. It's happened. You think, surely they knew, but they hid their addictions until after they were married. And so that's a reason, because they truly weren't in a true mindset of getting married if they were influenced by outside forces. Children, again, children. They say, oh yeah, when we get married, we're going to have 4 or 5 kids. Well, then after the marriage, one of the spouses, it's not just the men, sometimes women, say, oh no, let's get a bigger house. Oh no, we got to get 2 cars. Oh no, we have to have a vacation house. Oh no, when we get a boat, when they deny the other spouse having children, that's a very big reason for an annulment. So, previously married. If you were previously married, we have to do an annulment process before you can get married in the church. Annulment in our diocese does not cost any money. Our Bishop Toops, it used to cost $25 to $300 depending on what type of annulment it was. But he did away with all of the expenses for the annulments and now we just turn in paperwork. And 6 months, a year, sometimes a little bit longer on when the annulment comes through, so that you can then get married in the Catholic Church. So, I don't know all of you personally, I don't know your stories, but if you were not married, if you are married and are not married in the Catholic Church, we need to see about having your marriage blessed. That would be one of the steps that you would need to take on your journey to becoming Catholic. We could do it before you become Catholic, or we could do it right after Easter. Sometimes they want to get married, remarried on their anniversary date, and it's coming up 3 or 4 months after Easter. Can we wait? Yes, we can wait then. But if you're not in a blessed marriage, we really need to talk about having your marriage blessed. The blessing of a marriage can be very simple or as elaborate as you want it to be. We could do a 10-minute ceremony after work, after one of the masses, or we could do the full mass with the married in the mass. The only people that have to be present, I need 2 witnesses. 2 witnesses to be present to say that they were there, to also be witnesses to the marriage. So again, I don't know all your stories, I don't know where you're at on your journey, but if you do need an annulment, we need to start working on that. Again, we need a copy of your baptismal, which I think I have just about everybody's baptismal, so that's a start. Then we would need the marriage license from that first marriage. And if you don't have it, it's on file at the courthouse, whatever county you got married in, it's on file there. And a copy of the divorce papers. An annulment is not divorce. An annulment is a disillusionment that says it was not a sacrament of marriage. The divorce comes from the state, but the annulment says that it was not a sacrament of marriage. Sometimes there are people who have more than one marriage. My record so far is 9. I had a lady 15, 18 years ago, wonderful lady, but she got married the first time when she was 14, and she had 9 husbands, and none of them lasted. And then after we were working on the 9, she came back and said, "Oh, I remembered another one." I was like, "Good Lord." Like, oh Lord. She was in her 70s by this time. And so we got her through the whole process, and she and her current husband are still married after, I'm saying, 15, 18 years. They're still together. So she finally found her soulmate. So praise Jesus, it took this time. Because, she didn't remember names or places, or it gets kind of convoluted at times. Any questions? An annulment, sometimes say, I don't want to get an annulment because it'll change the status of my children. If you know what that means. It does not change the status of the children. The church says if one of the partners went in thinking that this was a sacramental marriage, those children are not illegitimate. They are children of God. And their status does not change. Because you still know who the mama was and you still know who the daddy was. An illegitimate child, you don't know usually the father. The mother usually sticks around. So that doesn't change. An annulment doesn't change the status of the children. And also, An annulment is based on what happened at the time that they got married. Not 15 years, 20 years later, when one of the spouses decided to go off and find another partner. That doesn't have a ruling on the annulment. The annulment is based on what happened at the time of the marriage. How long you knew them, how long you dated, what did y'all talk about before you got married, how long did you stay married, and were there any children, those kind of details. So they base it on what happened at the time of the marriage, not what ended the marriage. Because the church believes that a wedding or a marriage can be saved, that no matter what happens, that the couple, if they truly love each other, can work through it. And I have seen some couples who have been able to work through what others would have divorced over, because they had a relationship with God and because they truly wanted the marriage to work. It takes a while to work through that forgiveness stage for each other. It takes a while to build up trust, but it can be done. It can be done if both parties are willing to work on it. So, nothing. Because we're about through with marriage, unless y'all have something. Question? Okay. Well, that's marriage. This weekend we will have dismissal. Patrick and Karen will lead the dismissal this week. They're the ones that are at the table helping to check you in. March 8th, which is just a month from now, okay? March 8th is a Saturday. It was on the first calendar that you, it's not, no, I think it's on the first calendar you received. March 8th is the rite of election. We will go to St. Anthony's Cathedral Basilica, and we will welcome in the parish, but you will be welcomed by the bishop. The bishop will do a ceremony, and you and your sponsor need to be present. It's at 10 o'clock, Saturday, March 8th at St. Anthony's. And usually by noon we're done. So usually a couple of hours, hour and a half. They haven't given, they change it every year, so I don't know. But sometimes they have a reception afterwards. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes they have you write your name in a book. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes they do this. So I don't know until I get there Saturday morning. I have to go early, and they tell us what's going to happen. But that's Saturday, March 8th at 10 a.m. So, any questions on that?
Would that be all the churches, or just?
So, sometimes they do 2 services, and sometimes they only do 1. If it's 1, it's all the churches in the diocese that have RCIA programs. They bring everybody to St. Anthony's. We had to turn in all of the names in January, so they count the names and see if everybody will fit in 1 service or 2. And again, they hadn't told us yet. So sometimes it's split. In some last couple of years, it's only been 1. But and if you've never been to St. Anthony's, it's a beautiful place to go and see. Just to kind of, you can sit there and you kind of look around, and it's really, really a fancy place to see. Our cathedral is very beautiful. Yes?
Family thing, or is that just you?
Is it a family thing? Good question. I will let you know. Typically, they say guests can come. You would be in the pew with your sponsor, and So I tell them we have more people coming than we do so that we can fit. I know how to work the system. I know how to work the system. So I gave them larger numbers than what we actually have so that we're not crowded in pews and your spouses can sit with you. Now, extended family, they have some seating in the back, but we can probably get your spouse in if they're not your sponsor. And probably a kid or two, but I will know, depending on if it's 2 services or just 1. Yeah, you got 2 kids. But in-laws, we probably got room for them, yeah. Okay, that was a good question. Good question, good question. Any others? Okay, we're good then. If y'all have no questions, next week we do rosary. Deacon Sherman is going to be here and he's going to go through the rosary. We'll pray 1 decade of the rosary. He'll tell you its history and how it came about and the things that we do with that. So, okay, stay warm. Be careful going home if it's still raining. And we'll see you dismissal Sunday 9:30 and then next week here on Thursday.